What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video today. We're doing a video on Ross Chastain and asking, is Ross Chastain a championship contender yet or not? We're going to go and talk about that today and answer the questions. Coming in season, I realistically thought that Ross Chastain would be a playoff contender this year, and I thought that he would get some top 5s and top 10 this year and get some good finishes. But so far, Ross Chastain has probably been the most improved and the most surprising in a good way when it comes to him. Ross Chastain so far has scored 2 victories this season, those coming at Circuit Americas and Talladega. He's been up front. At Coda was really on that good hot streak there for a little bit, and Talladega picked up his second career victory in that one Moose fraternity car. One thing to note is that car was the same car they used at Coda, the one he used at Talladega, so they use that car. So if they make it to the championship for this year, he potentially could have it there. So far, he has the most top 5s anybody this year with 6 top 5s and currently has 6 top 10s. So when he's finishing in top 5, he's also getting those top 10s well. Outside of that, though, he has 4 finishes outside the top 10, and one of those, of course, being outside the top 20. He's got 3 finishes, though, outside the top 20. Ross Chastain so far has led 157 laps, which I think is in the top 10 most laps of anybody so far. So he is leading quite a bit of laps. It's not the most laps of anybody, but he is leading a lot of laps this year. He has a 13.5 average finish, which is in the top 10 of average finishes so far. If you take away a couple of those really bad finishes, he would probably be closer to the playoffs right now, or actually leading the championship right now, but has a 13.5 average, which is pretty solid considering it's been such a crazy start to the year. That 13.5 for average is really not that bad, considering nobody in the Cup Series field right now has an average finish under 10.5 right now, which Chase Elliott currently holds that at the moment. Right now, Ross Chastain has the second most playoff points of anybody with 11 playoff points. The only driver beating him in that category right now is William Byron, but that's, of course, because William Byron has 13 stage points compared to Ross Chastain, who has 11. One area, though, that Ross Chastain is really kind of struggling in compared to everybody else ahead of him with the points is his lack of stage points. Ross Chastain right now only has 44 stage points, and I'm saying only like it's nothing, but he has the least amount of playoff points, stage points, inside the top 9. I think he's got tied with, I think Logano at 44. I think someone's got 45, but a lot of drivers ahead of him. Chase Elliott has 97. William Byron has 99. Kyle Larson has the third most, I believe, at 82, and Larson would be farther up in the points had he had more better finishes than he's had, because Larson's had pretty good consistency throughout, but also has had some struggles at this point as well. Chastain's definitely going to have to work on the playoff getting stage points if he's going to want to make it farther here, because stage points are going to be so much more important, especially if he's going to want to contend for the regular season championship, considering right now he's just 76 points below the cutoff line. But now let's go through each of the races and definitively ask, is he definitely a championship contender? So in Daytona 500, he ended up finishing 40th. He was involved in the first big crash early in the race. That really was nowhere he could go. He got a lot of damage in that. I think the tires went down at that time. There were issues with the tires. They've seemed to resolve those a little bit, but there still are issues around that. 10 or 11 races in, but not as consistent as we've seen in the past. He ended up finishing 40th, ended up finishing in last. Then at Auto Club, he finished 29th. But he was actually running near the top 10 in the race and was contending for a potential top 5 before, I believe, having a tire going down late and dropping back and finishing a lap or 2 laps down with tire issues late in the race, finishing in 29th. Then in Las Vegas was the first race where Ross Chastain really showed himself. He led the most laps in Las Vegas and picked up his first stage victory of the season so far. He was really fast. It looked like he was going to win, but Kyle Busch and Mark Truex passed him late. And then late in the race, we saw Kyle Larson take a strategy, and they were able to hold him off and basically contend. Alex Bowman won the race. Chastain, though, finished in third. Then the next week, which was at Phoenix, he was actually up front in the top 5 and was contending for the win, but Chase Briscoe was able to hold off a hard-charging Tyler Reddick and Ross Chastain, as Chastain ended up finishing second and Chase Briscoe won, with Chastain and Tyler Reddick exchanging really good nature toward each other after the race took place. Then the next weekend at Atlanta, Ross Chastain was right in the position, actually coming across the line. He actually crossed the line third, but because Christopher Bell passed, basically forced him below the yellow line, double yellow line on the backstretch, Christopher Bell was sent to the tail, and Ross Chastain was given second place there. So he ended up finishing second at Atlanta. And then finally, at Circuit of the Americas, he had the best car near the second half of the race. So one car was super, super strong with all the momentum. It finally came together, and Ross Chastain picked up his first victory. Yes, of course, it was in very controversial fashion on the last night when there was contact between him, AJ Allmendinger, and Alex Bowman late in the race. But hey, Allmendinger battled him first and got in him first. So Chastain, it was very fair game for him. So basically, he was able to win the race there. Then next week at Richmond, Ross Chastain early in the race looked like he was going to be contending for another victory. I actually had picked him to go back-to-back at Richmond, become the first driver to get two victories early in the season. But unfortunately, his car really fell off in the second half of the race and ended up finishing in 19th. I believe on the lead lap still, but unfortunately ended up finishing in 19th. Then the next week at Martinsville, he was one of the few drivers who really could get to the field because, again, it was very difficult to pass in Martinsville, almost impossible to pass. But with how aggressive Ross Chastain was, he drove all the way up to 5th. At one point early in the race, it looked like he was going to be finishing outside the top 20. But his car really came in, especially in the second half, and finishing in a very solid top 5 finish. So he got his 5th top 5 of the year and got a really good run at Martinsville, which is kind of surprising considering Trackhouse kind of struggled there with Daniel Suarez. Then the next week at Bristol Dirt, he did end up finishing 33rd, but that was an engine problem. And let's not forget that he was actually contending for the lead. And we thought the win of the race between his team and his teammate Daniel Suarez, who we thought were basically going to be the two. One of those two was going to go to victory lane at the time because rain had come into play in that race, and rain had been an issue. They basically was raining the whole entire race, but they kept going. Unfortunately, there had been mud and rain had gotten into the car, and unfortunately, mud really got into the engine and cooked the engine for Ross Chastain, and instead of contending for the win, he finished 33rd. And in this past race at Talladega, Ross Chastain was right now, I believe, was right there in third or fourth position, right behind Eric Jones and Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson goes up to try to make a pass on Eric Jones. Eric Jones puts a block and sees part way, and Ross Chastain picks up his second victory of the year with a car that was from the same car which was from COTA, which is something that really entails from the next-gen car, which shows the next-gen car can race on any type of track. It doesn't matter, because back in the day, especially with Gen 6, Gen 5, and all the previous generations of cars, you have to build separate types of cars to go to different races. With this car, though, you can go to different types of tracks and race with the same car, which is going to be a big money saver long term. Now, the big question, of course, is with all these performances, is Ross Chastain a legitimate championship contender at this moment? I know that a lot of people are going to say it's too early to consider Ross Chastain a championship contender, but I absolutely disagree for a lot of reasons. One, Ross Chastain has been one of the few drivers that has been generally running up front. Like I said, go back to some of the races where he hasn't finished well. At Bristol Dirt, I know he finished 33rd, but was having engine problems near that race, was contending for the victory. Auto Club ended up finishing 29th, had tire issues, and then, of course, at Richmond, was contending early. He's been one of the few drivers that's been really showing up this year, and I think Trackhouse really, with that Chip Ganassi partnership, I think things are gelling. And also, he and Phil Surgeon do have a good relationship as a crew chief and driver pairing that they worked with last year. So it is the same group working together right there, and it does really, really help. But another reason I think that he's a championship contender at this moment is because Chevy right now has looked stronger than any other manufacturer. Right now, I believe Chevy has won 6 out of the 10 races this year, and they've won many of the races over the last 2 years. Really, ever since that partnership with Chevy when Hendrick and ECR basically combined their engines together to work together on a major project, Chevy has really been on fire. They've won the last 2 championships, and Ross Chastain is looking to try to become a championship contender this year. And like I said, coming this year, I would not have said this to Ross Chastain, but he's looked also very confident. Another big reason I think he's also a championship contender is because, like I said, his average finish is great, and because he's been good at every type of track. It doesn't matter what type of track you go to, he has been a championship threat. Look early in the year, he was really fast at super speedways like at Talladega. He was very, very fast at short tracks like Martinsville and Richmond early in the race, and Martinsville and Bristol Dirt around those tracks. He was really, really fast at mile-long tracks like Phoenix, which, of course, we're going to be back there later this year. And how fast they've been on the mile type of tracks and the shorter tracks as well, I think that's going to play a major factor right there in helping Ross Chastain. Now, I will say this, though, in regards to Ross Chastain. Trackhouse Racing eventually is going to get caught up by some of the bigger teams. We're still early in the year to where I think a lot of teams are still figuring this car out. We haven't had a definitive team that's really shown up. Yes, I know Hendrick Motorsports has won 4 races so far this year, but it looks like right now there really hasn't been, besides Hendrick Motorsports, there really hasn't been a clear favorite outside of Trackhouse Racing. But like I mentioned, I think by the end of this year, I do think that some of these bigger teams like Joe Gibbs Racing and Hendrick Motorsports really going to take off, and Team Penske, and even Stewart-Haas Racing. I think Trackhouse Racing is still going to be there, though. I think Trackhouse is one of those teams that's really gelling. And with them basically taking over an established team of Chip Ganassi Racing, taking that shop, I think that's really helped them. They're not even moving to the Nashville area now and building a shop there, a race shop, I should say, because now they have it there. So they're not going to plan to do that because they got to focus on trying to win a championship this year. But yes, I absolutely believe that Ross Chastain is a championship contender. Like I said, I do know that we're only 10 races in, and we still got another 2/3 of the season to go. So we still have plenty of time for things to change, and Ross Chastain could absolutely fall from grace and fall off. But I don't see that happening for Ross Chastain. I really don't believe that's going to happen. So like I said, what Ross Chastain is going to have to do here is Ross Chastain is basically going to have to go in there and he's going to have to get more stage points. He needs to be more consistent up front and does need to qualify better because that's one thing that Ross Chastain has also struggled with is qualifying. If he can work on his qualifying starting this weekend at Dover, I do believe Ross Chastain is going to be at some point a championship threat. So this is one thing we're going to have to watch, but I absolutely believe he's a championship contender. If you really want to know my final 4 currently at the moment right now, I know we're only 10 weeks in, but I would say probably Chase Elliott because he does have the most stage points and the 15 playoff points currently at the moment. I would say William Byron is another one, Kyle Busch, and then Ross Chastain with Kyle Larson just right behind him with 5 top 5s. I think it's really tough to say who's going to get in the championship for. This is definitely the toughest season to really know who's been a championship contender because there haven't been a lot of drivers who really showed up because even the guys that have ran well, they have struggled at points this season. But I believe that Ross Chastain currently at the moment is a championship contender, and I think he will be a championship contender this year. I actually think he's going to make the Final Four. I know it's too early to say that, but I think Ross Chastain is going to be contending for a championship, and it would not shock me at the end of the season on November 6th of this year. It would not surprise or not shock me if he's able to go out there and be your 2022 NASCAR Cup Series champion. We'll have to keep an eye on this, but I think Ross Chastain this year is going to contend for a championship, and I think he absolutely is a championship contender, in my honest opinion. So anyway, that's today's special NASCAR video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel notifications to be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on pages on list schedule below over that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. Do you believe that Ross Chastain is a championship contender or not? Let me know in the comments below. If not, tell me why you don't think he's a championship contender. And if it's yes, kind of tell me why you think he is a championship contender in the comments. Let me know that below. Tomorrow on my channel, we're going to have a NASCAR news video as we get you guys set up for Dover this week. And we've got quite a bit to talk about, some controversy around that. Then this weekend, of course, we're heading to Dover. On Saturday, we'll have a NASCAR Xfinity Series review potentially. And then on Sunday, of course, we will have a NASCAR Cup Series review from Dover International Speedway. Keep your eyes on the channel as well as I've got some stuff that's coming on the way here in the near future. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for your awesome NASCAR and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.